What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Paris and I make videos all about candle making and the starting and managing of my small candle business, LadyCIMONNE Candle Co. Today we're talking retail versus wholesale, pricing our products. I get this question all the time. It can get really confusing which route and what business model is best for you. And so I kind of want to dive deep into that discussion today and just kind of walk through my thought process, how I approach it with my business, and then kind of walk through kind of a pricing model that I use. So let's just get started. Retail versus wholesale. What's the difference? Okay, technically, by way of definition, retail is selling merchandise directly to the end consumer in like one-off purchases. So I am a consumer, I go to Walmart and I purchase some Dove body wash. So Walmart is the retailer, right? I'm the end consumer. So retail, Walmart is selling merchandise, the Dove body wash, directly to the end consumer, which is me. So that is considered like B2C, that acronym, business to consumer. On the flip side, wholesale is like selling bulk items to a retailer. So a wholesaler is selling bulk items to a retailer to then sell to the end consumer. And I'm being very animated with my hand gestures and I don't even know why. So that is like business to business. So B2B. So the business, the wholesaler, whatever warehouse or like, Dove will sell their items in bulk to a retailer such as Walmart, who then sells it to the end consumer, which is moi or us, so or shoppers. So that is the difference broken down in actual definitions, like acronym terms. So which route is right for your business? So as a beginner, I get this question all the time, like, should I just start selling online? Or should I dive into wholesale and try to get into some like boutiques or, places that will carry my candles? Like, what should I start with? Which route should I go? And you know what? Wholesale. So let's start with the wholesale business model. So that is where you will be making like candles, wax melts, whatever your product list is, you will be making them in bulk and selling them, in bulk to another business, or like you said, if you wanted to try to get into some stores, some local shops or boutiques, you would then sell them to them in large quantities for them to resell to the end consumer. And wholesale is great. There's a lot of money to be made with it because they're buying your items in bulk for a large amount. And there can be some benefits to that, right? The overhead costs definitely cuts down because, you're buying things in bulk so much, you're making things in bulk, so you're not constantly having to turn over your shelves for your customers. You can just focus on pleasing that or multiple businesses, selling through multiple channels. And so there is money to be made there. However, there's the process of actually finding a shop or a boutique that will take you, or, I know one day my dream is to make it into like a major retail store, like the Targets and the Walmarts and things like that. But it is the process of actually getting in it and then following through, right? And as a beginner, it can be overwhelming. Making candles on that large of a scale so soon can definitely be overwhelming for one person. But that is a route to consider maybe down the line. However, not trying to tell you what to do, honey. You can definitely look into that. If that's something that you want to take on and not even worry about the end consumer or customers, you can just strictly stick to wholesale. Once you've nailed down your craft, got your product list together, worked out your pricing, you can definitely go for it and, grind to get into some stores and just ensure that you're following through and you can deliver. You have the retail business model, which is the model that majority people go, right? You start your online store and you're you're doing festivals and fairs and shows, craft shows, and you're dealing directly with the public, the marketplace, the customers. You're getting that interaction. The retail business model is just that. You are making your products and you are selling one-off items. You're selling them to customers. They either order from you online, or when you meet them in person, you sell in person. And so when it comes to the resale side, that's where the prices vary between resale and wholesale. So wholesalers, you will sell your items at a discounted rate. So whoever is purchasing from you as a wholesaler will buy them in bulk at a discounted rate, versus the retail, where you would sell it just at the retail price, so that way you can make a profit. But whoever wants to purchase you from as a wholesale, you will cut that price in half, so then they can then mark it up and they make a profit. So you're making a profit as a retailer, right? Because you're pricing it as such. But then if you decide to go the wholesale route, you have to sell it at a discounted price, so that way that business can then make a profit as well. So you've made your money when you sold it, and then now they're going to resell it so they can make a profit. So those are the differences between the two models. When it comes to wholesale, though, kind of the downfalls is where I wouldn't say you lose a lot of control. You can set a lot of contingencies and guidelines up front in terms of how the purchasing process will be, the pricing, the suggested retail price, and all that stuff. But how they choose to operate it in their store once they purchase it in bulk from you, it's on them. Versus retail, where you have sole control, how you price your products, where and how you sell them, how you interact with customers, how you choose to market it, all that stuff you control. But once you sell it to another business to then resell, you kind of lose the control on how things are operated and ran in their business. You control a lot of the upfront processes, but once it leaves your shop or your kitchen, they have to run it how they see fit in their store. So those are kind of the pros and cons, but both business models are great, especially in the candle industry. A lot of money can be made either model you choose to go. Now, which model did Lady Simone do? When I first started, I did the retail business model. So, I am the CEO, I'm the founder, I'm the owner, I'm the marketer, I'm the book person, I'm the craft, I'm the candle maker, I'm the advertiser, honey. She wears all of it. And so I chose to go that route because I wanted an online store. It was a way for me to be able to tell my story, introduce myself here on YouTube, introduce myself to my customers, give some background of my story, introduce my mission, what my branding is, and connect with customers, get in front of their faces, sell my products, and really put LADYC'S stamp on the map. And showcase my products, show off my hard work. And so I started out doing the B2C model, business to consumer. And so I do festivals. I actually have a few events coming up this year that I have already lined up. I like being able to interact with customers, even though I can be such an introvert. That part, it pulls me out of my shell, and I'm able to get direct feedback from customers. I get to actually experience them sniffing my candles, and being able to purchase and handing them a bag and putting my sticker on it and saying have a blessed day. I hope to see you purchase again soon. Here's my card. Make business connections, networking events, like all of that stuff comes great when you start out with that retail model, because you instantly get that customer to customer interaction. Now, as I'm growing, I'm going into my third year of business. I started my business in 2020, May of 2020. And so, now where I am, last year, I began to network and started hooking up with, you know, potential wholesale clients. And so I do have one client now. I know earlier last year, I potentially had a client that did not work out. The demands were too much, and I set my contingencies and my guidelines up front, and he just wasn't trying to follow it. So sometimes every business deal is just not worth it, and I'm not getting a headache. So now, you know, I have one client that I'm working with, and then now going into this new year, my goal is to start sniffing out local shops here where I live to potentially get into a few shops. So I started out slow, small, did some rebranding, slowly building my brand, slowly getting some recognition out there, making a footprint here locally, and now I'm starting to dabble into wholesale. So that is the route that I took, and in doing that, it's just a matter of networking at events, going to local shops, emailing local shops, getting in contact with the managers, and just getting your products in front of them. How do I price my products? So when it comes to pricing your products, it comes down to essentially 3 components: materials, overhead, and profit margin. So your materials are all the raw supplies and materials that you use to make your final candle, your final wax melt, your final room spray, whatever other products that you offer. Your raw supplies and materials, all that goes into making that final end product. Your overhead costs are your production and fulfillment costs. So, you know, like your subscriptions and fees, right? So like my Shopify monthly fee, that's an overhead cost. It's something that comes out every single month, and I need it to run and operate my business. Your profit margin, so pricing for profit, pretty much is what I like to call it. And so understanding how much it costs to make one candle, and then pricing adequately in order to make a profit. And so I ran into this issue when I first launched, because you know, you run into that wall of people not wanting to pay for your stuff. Like $12 for a candle, honey, that's too expensive. But you know daggone well they will take their butts to Bath and Body Works and pay $23-30 for one 3-wick candle. And so what I had to understand was, this is my business. I'm gonna price it as I see fit, because she's trying to get paid, and I'm not about to be running this business for free and letting, you know, the feedback of a few people who don't want to put their hands in their pocket, you know, disrupt my potential profits. And it takes several years for your business to really see a true profit on your books, and I'm not about to let y'all stop me from doing that. So I went from $9 to $12 to $15, and now I finally settled on $16. And so I had to raise my prices several times in the first couple years of my business, and luckily my customers, you know, I've gained a great customer base, but I had to reevaluate my priorities, and I can't afford to allow my business to just run and operate on, you know, everybody's opinions. So now let's break down each component. So remember I said 3 components. So we'll start with the materials component. And so this is how you would kind of break down to try to determine the overall pricing of your products. So you have your wax, right? So you need to find out how much wax, how much it costs. So let's say you use an 8-ounce jar, right? So how much wax do you use that you need to make an 8-ounce candle jar, right? And that goes back to my formula. So go, and I have 2 formula videos. You're more than welcome to check them out to determine how much wax you need to make one candle. And so you can break that down for your wax cost. So you need to determine how much wax it costs to make a candle. Of course, you need to find out the price per unit for your jar. And so usually they come in like a dozen. So you would just find out the cost per jar. So how much you paid for the dozen divided by 12, right? So if you paid $16.35 for 12 jars, take $16.35 divided by 12. And then your candle wicks, right? So you would divide the cost per package by the amount of wicks you purchased. So if you bought 100 wicks for $9.99, you would take, $9.99 divided by 100 and get your cost per wick. Your fragrance oil. And so you need to break down how much it costs for, how much oil do you use to make your one candle, right? That goes back to that formula. So that includes the wax and the fragrance oil. Figure out how much oil it takes to make one candle, right? And break down that cost. So this is just an example, but like 1 pound of fragrance oil is, let's just say, roughly $16. So that's $1 per ounce essentially, right? So you just need to kind of break that down. So with a half an ounce per 8 ounce candle jar, that's technically like 50 cents. So I hope that makes sense. You just have to find out, break it down for the one jar. Oh gosh, I hope I'm making sense. Now, wick stickers, right? If you use wick stickers, it's the same way you would treat it as the wicks, right? How much did you pay for 100 wick stickers? If you paid $5, $5 divided by 100, that's the cost per sticker. Same with lids. Typically lids come in the same quantity as the candle jars. So if you purchase 12 lids for $9.85, $9.85 divided by 12. And then you can get into like the other type of things. So like if you use dye can get really complicated because it's trying to figure out how much it costs per however many drops you use. That's where it can get like really extra, trying to figure out from there. But basically, I'm trying to think, because I wrote this down so I can kind of explain it. So how many drops a container? So I was able to figure up the cost per drop. Yeah, and like I said, it can get really extra. I don't use dye, but for the sake of this video, I was trying to figure out the cost per drop. And so just use a scale and figure out how much a few drops weigh and go from there if you use dye. And then of course, like other decorative items that you may use. So I don't know how you choose to decorate your candles, if you want to use ribbon, if you want to use tulle or twine, or however, any decorative items. And baby girls over there were crying, apologize. And then of course, tags and warning labels. So same as the Wick and sticker. So like I get all of my labels from Online Labels. It typically costs between $15 and $20 for me to get 1,000 to 1,200 labels depending on the size. And so if I get 1,200 labels, I'll just take $15 divided by 1,200 and get the cost per label. Let's talk about overhead breakdown. So overhead breakdown, like I said, typically revolves around fees and like shipping costs. So this is just an example, but let's say after you've broken down all of your materials, you realize to make one candle total, it costs $2.78 to make one candle once you've broken down all of your materials. So this is what will be considered an example of overhead breakdown. So like your base materials cost for one candle, your Shopify fees, credit card fees, PayPal fees, shipping costs. And so how I determine this is I do it on a per month basis instead of a per candle basis, because typically these are things that reoccur monthly. And so for example, my Shopify fees, instead of doing it per candle, I divide it by 30 days because typically it's a 30-day cycle. I look at my QuickBooks and just kind of get an idea how much on average a month do I spend on credit card fees, because Shopify do take a percentage. Same with PayPal. I log into my PayPal and every month I print out the summary, the financial summary, the monthly statement, and I get an idea on generally just an average. And this may take a few months to kind of nail down, which is why I went through a few price changes, especially when I went from $15 to $16. You're like, what's that dollar difference? Haha, but you'd be surprised what that dollar will do, honey, when you start calculating fees and on average how much it costs you a month, and then you would just divide it by 30. Same with shipping cost. Shipping cost takes a few months to kind of get a good average, but there's some months where I sell amazingly, and then there's some months where I don't get a lot of sales, and so I always go with the highest month, you know, that I've had to date, and just try to get a general average. So for example, the Shopify fees will come to, you know, 42 cents. Credit card fees, 31 cents. PayPal fees, 35 cents. And then shipping costs on average, $5.50. And so, you know, that will kind of be like your overhead, your production and fulfillment costs. These are the things that go into being able to produce and ship and fulfill orders. And then the last component, profit margin, pricing for products. So I use the standard profit margin approach. So there's several approaches that you can use, but I just use the standard one because if you don't need to overcomplicate your business, don't. Like, look, all of this right here, this video is probably gonna give y'all a headache anyway. It's giving me a headache recording it because it's just a lot that you have to consider when trying to nail down the price of your candle, and then how to price it for retail versus wholesale. So again, I use the standard profit margin approach, which is typically the approach that a lot of new businesses use. And it's a simple strategy. Once you determine your materials cost, you multiply that by 4 for retail, and then multiply it by 3 for wholesale selling, which is when you sell to another business who will then mark it up. Or you can multiply it by 4 for retail or by 2 for wholesale. So what I do is my candles are $16. And so that is the retail price. After I broke down all of my materials and incorporated my production and fulfillment cost, that is what I came to. My candles came to roughly, it was like $3. They're $3 and I believe 35 cents for one candle after I added everything in. Yes, $3.35 because I had to do some adjusting lately. And so that's where I'm at, right? So I just rounded it to $4. And so that way, that gap between the 35 cents to reach the $4, you know, can cover any those kind of spiked shipping costs as well. I try to accommodate for kind of those spiky shipping cost moments where somebody will order something from California. It costs more to ship to somebody in Cali than it do to Toledo, Ohio, where I live in Ohio. Which is 2 hours away, you know what I mean? So that extra, you know, that chunk change that's in there, I just rounded it up to $4 to make sure I'm covering as much as I can for my business. And then I just times it by 4, $16, right? Flat out 16. And then, so for wholesale, I actually just divide mine by 2. So if I want to sell to a shop locally, I would sell it to them for $8 a candle instead of $16 a candle. So I use the multiply by 4 for retail, multiply by 2 for wholesale. So that is the model that I use. Some people multiply by 3 for wholesale. So it's just a matter of your choice. I do by 2 because my candles, they're already $16. So I do try to give a break there, especially for local shops. So that is my approach. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I know that was probably like a lot. I truly did my best to break this down as best I could. Now, please keep in mind, this does not look the same for every business. Every business doesn't have a bunch of fees. Every business doesn't use the same materials. I may use coconut soy wax. You may use regular soy. Another candle maker may use apricot. So all of our numbers will always look different. There's no one candle business that has the same exact numbers. So I wouldn't be able to like flat out tell you in the comments or in this video, like, hey, this is what your number should be. Like, it's not going to be like that because everybody has different costs within those 3 components that I discussed. So in my course, How to Start a Candle Biz for Beginners, I actually break this down even further, and I actually give a full flat out examples, and I use ounces and grams. So a lot of people look forward to that module. When they get to it, they always hit me up like, oh my gosh, I just got through with module 5, and man, I did not realize how much goes into pricing a candle. And this is why a lot of candle makers feel the sting of being in business for a while but feeling like they're not making any money. And that's because we're not properly pricing our stuff right, because we get compared or intimidated against others thinking we should price our candles at $9 when you know daggone well your candles should probably be at least between 12 or 15 bucks depending on the jar and the type of wax you use. When I went from soy to coconut soy, I definitely had to raise my prices. The wax is more expensive. It's a blend, number one. And you also have to make sure you're making your business begins to make a profit enough, because I want to pay myself. I'm not just doing this for fun. Like, I love making candles. I love it. The craft alone, it does something to me. It's my passion, and it gives me a chance to tell my story through the scents that I love. However, it's a lot of work, and I will get paid for it. Okay? And I eventually want to hire people. So I do have a bookkeeper on my team now. Sorry, I was looking at my daughter. I do have a bookkeeper on my team now, but eventually I want to get to the point where maybe I can hire an assistant. Maybe I can hire a social media manager, and be able to invest in other business things. But you can't do that if you're constantly penny pinching just to even turn over your shelves. So really, really consider and walk through this process. If you need help, check out my course. My course is $197 flat out, and there's a payment option, so you could pay $98.50 for 2 months and learn this stuff, y'all. Learn how to properly price your stuff. Learn what really goes into making a business, so that way you're not, up against a wall trying to figure out how to make the next month. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the description box. There's tons of resources and links down there, coupon codes and everything for your business. So make sure you check that out. And until next time, bye.